we had a brief technical difficulty, but I got George back, and I don't know if it was the ghost of Benny Golson saying when he heard the B minor and C minor, there was some rub there, but we got cut off. But we're back. Okay, so George, if you could finish telling me about how you were playing in C minor and everybody else was in B minor.
You know, it was an oddest feeling because like I said, it's just but they're blues, they're minor blues.
Right.
So I'm saying, well, wait a minute, something's got to be wrong, and I'm thinking, like the lady in the parade, everybody's out of step but my son,
Right. Oh man. Oh gosh.
That was a weird feeling. That was one of
Yeah.
the weird feelings. I can't explain to you how embarrassed I was. The guys, they were cool.
Right.
Ghosts, and but then I heard that was something they would do. That was a common thing to challenge you like that. To see really where were you? Could you just but they did actually play it in B minor.
Yeah. Wow. Man.
I hadn't even thought about playing it in B minor.
Right.
Everything I played was off.
Right.
I'm searching.
Right.
But all of us became, it's amazing how things work out. As I say, I didn't get the gig.
Right.
It was really, the creator is so wonderful. He has a plan. I know what I was doing out there. I was just taking a chance, because Cedar said, man, come on now. We need, you can do this.
Yeah.
But the way things worked out, that same year, within months, is when I heard from Chico Hamilton.
Wow.
Got that gig.
Yeah.
And came to California. So that's just where I was supposed to go.
Wow. That's it's so funny because like I was the same. I worked with the Duke Ellington Orchestra for about 12 or 13 years. I was maybe 20 when I joined the band. And I grew up with those cats. Now, this was like the third generation. So this is after Mercer passed. This is like that inception of the band. And I learned so much from all of them. I really learned how to be a man from all of those cats on the road. And due to different like business things, I realized like I need to step away from this establishment. But it was really hard for me to do it. I was really fearful. I was really like, what is going to happen when I walk away from it? And as soon as I did, all these other things opened up directly with Duke Ellington music. So it was like Duke was like, I'm not done with you yet. I still need you. I'm gonna just change your environment, but we're right where we're supposed to be. And it's sometimes
I totally believe that.
Yeah.
I still, and as things go on, like now, 50 years later or so, all of the same guys, the ones that are alive, we're still very close.
Yeah.
But we still kept the contact. Cedar used to come to my house every time he's in California, man, and call me all during the week. I love that brother. What a creative individual.
Wow.
Then I begin when he'd come out here and do a sextet thing. It would be with Billy Higgins, and Billy's playing drums, man, and Oscar Bashir on trumpet, myself, and I mean, it was wonderful. We still got a chance to grow up together. Isn't that amazing?
It is. And I want to kind of look at another piece of that because pretty much everybody you're talking about is an African-American male. I didn't play with a full band of African-American people until I was in college, and when I did, I was like, wow, this is different. This is definitely different. There's just this underlying thing there that didn't need to be said that we had. What was it like developing like that? Because a lot of the camaraderie and the brotherhood you're talking about also related to what you had to deal with off the bandstand, How did that play into when you were on? Do you feel like that made you closer on the bandstand?
Yeah, we had fun, man. It was not a competitive thing at all. Everybody was just trying to. We knew it was like when the ingredients were right, something spiritual would always happen. And we got stuff we
Mm-hmm.
can talk about today that happened 50 years ago. And just how we merged or did something in the song. It was that kind of thing. Like I said, and most of us we had a limited amount of professional, some early in the day, we had a limited amount of really professional training. A lot of the guys, the piano players, they worked with Barry Harris. Barry was the guy. And, I said I knew Curtis, but Curtis was not a teacher, but he played beautifully and slick. He had his own thing.
Yeah.
But I'm varying a little bit because we, most of us had some sort of a gospel experience. The church came into play. So we had a good, we played a lot of blues. We had to play a lot of blues, and I don't care where you were from. When you come in, if you want to play some blues, we could play some blues.
Yeah.
And that was a good way, a good intro. And so we all knew we had that in common. You know what I'm saying? And but as far as even the black and the whites, there were guys way ahead of me. I mean Pepper Adams and all those guys, like I say, Frank Rossellino, these white boys, and they were accepted in the jazz scene as good jazz players. So I, here again, as a very young person, we didn't have any problem with the racial thing in music or off of the bandstand because all those cats were hanging in our areas all the time.
Interesting.
Just the guys, some of the cats.
Yeah.
But a full black band, large band, was Jimmy Wilkins, the first. I've seen that many brothers. He had all brothers at some point or other. But mostly I love the small group. I always loved quintet. If I was going to do a quartet, it was certainly ideal, but a quintet would be tenor and trombone. I love to play with a tenor player and a couple of good Miller Brisker. I don't know, you know those names, but and then a lot of the guys that came through Detroit just transitioned on into New York right away. They didn't stay in Detroit long, but I had a chance to meet a whole lot of the guys who actually made it later on the New York scene.
Yeah. Let me ask you before we leave Detroit. Before we leave, I would be remiss to not ask about these Motown sessions. Okay. What was that like? I mean, we know the music from the outside. We know all these classics, but what was it like being on the inside of that scene, recording it, the people who were in charge of like putting this stuff out there? Did you find that you went in, you did the music, and that was kind of like the end of your role, or did you have to intermingle with some of the bigger entities that made this music, a little bit more popularized?
Well, I think I was very fortunate because they knew me as a jazz player. They knew that's where my head was, even at Motown. I was trying to encourage them. Hey man, do some of these cats. Why don't we record some other guys? And and they did. They put out something on a label called Workshop Jazz, which was gave you about 4 hours in the studio, whatever you can do that for, you got it.
Okay.
That was workshop jazz.
Okay.
And I pulled together a group one afternoon with George Goldsmith, the drummer, Cecil McBee on bass, and then Kenny Cox on piano, and Will Austin, bass player there. But they did a thing with Roy Brooks, drummer.
Yeah.
I worked on that with Roy, and that we had Junior Cook on tenor saxophone. It was like one of Horace Silver's group without Horace.
Okay, dig it.
Yeah, it had I think Will Austin played piano on that, and those things you can find them on YouTube. You ought to check it out.
Okay.
But it's called Roy Brooks Beat.
Okay.
And Alice was on there. She played some piano. Alice Coltrane. And we did a tune called Soul Sphere, which is a great line. All that kind of bebop. It was beautiful. But those are on record. Motown label got that stuff. It ain't do nothing with it, man. But finally, one day I was dealing with my kids, grandkids, on who was it? Something, and I probably asked Google to play some early George Bohanon. And a couple of those tunes came up, and I said, "What? Who would do that to me?" I mean, it was really, really very, very bad.
Wow.
Yeah, there were a couple of moments here that we didn't have any mix, nothing. It was just it. We put it out there. I guess when they sold the catalog to whomever, they just said, "Here, take the whole thing."
Yeah. Wow.
But like the thing that whole story that got me out of Detroit and into the mix, Chico Hamilton, was wonderful because I came out here and it was wintertime in Detroit. So I wasn't anxious to go back after the gig was over.
Yeah.
And then I said, well, let me look around a little bit, but I stayed a while, went back. And then later on, my wife, I was married to another lady at the time, and she said, but she's an artist. She said, well, maybe we should really go get a serious look at California, because I think she had a brother living out here anyway. And so we decided, yeah. So I just said, well, Motown had slowed down a lot, because they had put me on a salary, Dion. I was on salary. Whether we recorded or not, I'd go pick up a check.
Wow.
That's hard to walk away from.
You ain't lying.
Nobody's working.
Yeah. You ain't lying.
Wow. But I had a great feeling that I felt like I had retired already, and I wasn't ready. And I had a meeting with Barry Gordy and told Barry, I said, well, man, I appreciate all that, you guys have done. You put me on salary and all. It's wonderful. I can still work on my other thing. But I said, but it feels like retirement, and I'm not really ready to retire. And he said, listen, I understand you exactly where you are. Let me give you two numbers. If you ever need recommendation or if you need help in any way, call me first. I never had to call him because I followed my spirit. And I came out to Detroit. I left Detroit and went to New York. And within that week, I had stuff lined up. Every place I went, I met somebody who said, "Oh yeah, well let me tell you, man, I know my call this guy. He's my contractor, the string contractor, George Poole." And I said, "Call him." Man, and the timing was so perfect. I had to take off from work to go back and get my family.
Wow. That's something.
And it continued. And then I got a TV show, the Glenn Campbell show. All the time it was on there with Marty Page's orchestra.
Wow.
All of these cats, I'm sitting there with oh, I ain't calling names now. All of these famous people, these cats, and I'm sitting in the middle, the only brother in some of this stuff.
Mm.
When that's when I really started noticing the thing. When I started going to things, and I was the only one.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah.
But then I had to figure that out. First of all, we were in the midst of what affirmative action.
Mm.
We had to have some representation.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know.
Wow.
So yeah, I happened to be the cat at that time. Thank
Yeah.
God.
Yeah. Wow.
You know. But
That's
Motown,
cool.
let me tell you, you want to know
Yeah.
about Motown. Let me go back to the studio for a couple of days, which here's
Yeah.
an average day. I get a call, come on in, we're working on something. Okay. We go in, the rhythm section might be in the big room there. We're in the back, horn, a couple of horns, 2 or 3 horn players. Smokey is, trying to figure out something. Yeah, he got a tune. They got half of the track done, and they say, "Well, we need something right here." Okay, horns. Well, put something right here. Just a couple of bars of dee 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 da. Okay, we figured out. Okay, well here, I'll take this note. You take that. That's how we made music for the longest. No arranger, really.
Wow.
They got arrangers' names on them.
Yeah. Right. Wow.
We put those together. Mary Wells, my guy. I was in the back room working on a tune called Canadian Sunset. Eddie Hayward, a guy named, sang it. Dee dee da da da, dee 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 da da la 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 la. And I was playing it on my baritone because I take it down there just to wish it on the baritone.
Okay.
Smokey heard it. What's that you playing, man? I said, I told him, play some of it again. I said, dee dee da da da. We can use that. He used that for the intro to my guy with Mary Wells.
Wow.
I still hear it playing in when I go to the market. It's coming on, dee dee, but he changed it just enough to keep from getting sued.
Right.
Dee 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 da da da, bum bum,
Wow.
my God.
Wow.
You know, but now Smokey was always very fair. He gave me a $200 incentive bonus for that.
Wow.
Which at that time, that was a nice taste. I took care of
Yeah.
a couple of car notes.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing.
But that was the way we would huddle and come up with things initially.
Yeah.
Now that happened for years until Paul Reiser and Wade Marcus and some of the other guys became come on the scene. Paul got out of high school. Paul was a trombone player who became the string writer and he was a wonderful writer. I don't know if you know Paul Reiser's name.
I'm not familiar.
Look it up.
Yes, I will. Absolutely.
Because a lot of the music you're talking about, Paul Reiser really put his thing on it. He's a wonderful, wonderful brother. And I was there when he got out of high school, and he played third trombone, and I played lead, and another guy, Bob White, played. Don White played second, but we began to grow that way, this is another connection I want to give you. When I look at it now in retrospect, I didn't know how to read really, and they didn't know how to write. So guys would come up with something on a napkin, and some the flags over on this side, and play that. We want you to play. Okay, now what are you trying to say?
Right.
You got to hum it in your ear.
Right.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Right.
That was great. That was a great thing because I tell people I learned to read at Motown because we didn't know how to write, and so we all read through that. And not only that learning to read at Motown and playing in the guitars all played in the open, wrote in the open string, right. E, A, B, D, G.
Right.
Well, we didn't play no E. We
right.
avoid E.
Right. Yes.
But then listen, look at the connection.
Yeah.
Charles Lloyd comes in, gets me with Chico. He likes to write in D, and hey man, it was like throwing a rabbit in the briar patch. That's all we played in down in Motown.
Yeah.
Now that's a whole nother connection to a jazz thing
Right.
that I got from Motown.
Wow.
You know, they say, spirit works, man. If you just follow the path, if you have enough belief and faith to really follow the path, it'll take care of you. But you can't just wait. You can't just sit down. You got to be moving.
Yeah. That is something that I'm only recently learning within the last couple of years, is to listen to myself and try to observe, what's going on in the environment and take that in, and not be so dictative to the way I think things need to be, because they could be happening for that. Kind of look at everything that happened with me, because I lost my ability to play. We did American Idol together. I think it was back in 2014. Actually, I have a picture here that I want to show you of us. And
you had dystonia, right?
Yeah. And this was before all of this happened. But let me see if I can get this to focus here. That's me in the middle. That's Lucian Barberin, who unfortunately is no longer with us. We lost him about a year ago. And you, and I knew at that point, that's probably why I'm smiling so big. I'm standing in between some legendary, this is like trombone history. I'm standing in between right now. And it was just like, as time went on, and then this whole dystonia thing happened with me, and I thought my career was over. I thought that was it for me. I do photography as well, so I said, all right, maybe this is just time for me to start doing that, because I love photography also. But I wasn't done. And through this process of having to retrain myself and playing again is where all of this came from. Like, I don't think if I didn't have dystonia, I wouldn't have started my chop shop business. I wouldn't have started this series. I wouldn't have had my own platform. And now I realize just how important that is. But I'm able to make that connection a little quicker. Like, hey, if I just gave up, like, none of this would be here, So this is all happening for a reason, for sure.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
That's really something.
Yeah.
Because you just don't know. It's hard to, people always want to know, what are your plans? What are you going to do for your life? Hey, I'm going to live it to the fullest, and I'm going to try to remain open, because some very important things can pass you by if you too self-centered. I knew that I had to play the trombone, because that was a spiritual connection there that I couldn't get rid of as an 8-year-old.
Yeah.
If it hit me then, and I'm crying, and I don't even know what's happening with me, but I know something happened, told me, you better get that horn.
Yeah.
That I followed, and so it's kind of been the way I've lived my life. I'm not afraid to take those chances. See, Detroit was an area where, for the most part, either you were a bebopper or you were not. It wasn't like the beboppers were playing and all the other stuff too.
Yeah.
I had an affinity for so much of the other music too. It felt good. Brothers were preaching some stuff, and I was just kind of in that mix.
Yeah.
I'm so happy that I was open, because if I had just spent the rest of my time saying, well, I know I got to play giant steps better than this. It's
Right.
beautiful, but I don't know when I'd ever get a chance to play it, except myself.
Right. Right.
But I saw an opportunity with Motown when the guys invited me over there, but early days of Motown, I'm backing up now a little bit on you.
Yeah.
The early days of Motown, and we would get like $10 per tune, however long it took to make it.
Oh, wow.
Sometimes a couple of days trying to get that lick together, some licks together that they were satisfied with.
Wow.
But it was more than the money for us, obviously, then, because we were creating so much together, and little bits and pieces were coming together. They would have a tune pretty much finished, but one section he didn't like in there, so he'd bring in somebody else with some ideas. Well, what do you think you should put in here? Okay, and we only had 4 tracks.
Right. Yeah. Something else I'm not even thinking about. You go in the studio now, there's like 10,000 tracks, 4 tracks.
Whatever. So we had to make it right. By the time we got out of there, that's the way you're going to hear it on the radio.
Yeah. Wow, man. That's so heavy.
But it was wonderful because you didn't fool around. You really wanted to make it right. You did your very best every take.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I adopted that kind of attitude. I go in the studio, and I came to California. I didn't know what I was going to do. Except I know I had these 2 or 3 gigs that had lined up where I said, well, listen, I got some gigs this whole week, man. Well, I'm going to get my family. But so I went on. I said, I got to go with my family. We're going to do this. We're going to make this move. And now I look at it. If I hadn't, I don't know what would have happened by now. I don't know if I'd be here or not.
Wow.
Really
wow. That's heavy. That's heavy. If I could, I'm gonna pivot a little bit to a little bit of how, because this I think is important for people to understand how important representation is. Okay, so I'm going to take you back to me growing up in Miami, and there was 2 twins that I grew up with, a drummer and a saxophone player, and they were like big influences on me playing jazz. Their father used to play a little drum, so they always had jazz around. But as far as seeing another Black trombone player, I hadn't seen that ever. And my teacher was amazing, but he was white. And my jazz teacher, great white. No other Black trombone players besides a couple of my peers. And there was every now and then PBS would play little something, little concert here, a little concert there. So I used to lean for those. I was like, I just want to see what it is out there. And one of the shows that they had was with the GRP All-Star Big Band. Okay. So now I'm watching this, and I know some of these names. Like, I know the name like the Dave Weckl. I know like the Ernie Watts, I think, was in there. I know Bob Mincer. I know a few, Arturo Sandoval.
Right.
And then there's one trombone, and there's one brother in the band. And I'm like, okay, who's that? And I kind of remember even my mom walking in the room and seeing me like really interested in this. And I was like, Mom, look, there's a Black trombone player. That was the first time. And when you played your solo on Blue Train, I was like, what is I was like, what is this? I hadn't been really exposed to too much then, but I had heard JJ, I had heard Curtis, but I had never seen anybody execute like the way that you play. I hadn't seen it. So now that I saw it, I was like, I want to learn how to do that. And very few things I put in a VHS, I recorded it on that, and I go back and watch it over and learn the positions and stuff like that. And that was the first time. Now, little did I know what an imprinting that would have on me, you know. But fast forward, I realized not like you are the first African American trombone player that I really saw. And I was like, I can do that. I want to do that, you know. So the fact that we're sitting here is just that's why it's kind of mind blowing. And when we did that American Idol show with Harry Connick, and I knew that you were on it, I was like, I'm good. You know.
And I didn't remember that was you from that show. That was
you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was playing first, and I think you might have been playing the third, but you were kicking my behind so hard from that third part. I was like, okay, like, wake up here, wake up.
Well, I used to tell the guys who, that's another thing, I had to be realistic because, like I said, I was self-taught, and a lot. I probably developed some things that weren't necessarily, I don't know, proper, but it worked for me,
Yeah.
And I always tell the guys, even when I go, they call me for the sessions. I say, well, I'm not a lead player necessarily, but I'll give you a strong second or third.
Boy,
You ain't lying. Because I like the second parts, because you get all the solos.
Game.
So I didn't, range and stuff. I if necessary, I can play it when I have to within the section, but it's not my thing. I just love the meat of the trombone, man. The sound, that is so beautiful.
Yeah.
There's nothing like the trombone. And then also where it sits in an orchestra, it's in the middle of the orchestra. You hear everything. You hear the trumpets behind you and all five saxophones down here and your whole section. It's the best seat in the house.
You're not lying.
So many trombone players become arrangers. They can hear everything. I hear a bad note anywhere. And he didn't mean a minor nine there. He missed up.
Yep. Yep. Oh man, that is so true. I know that to be the truth. In trombonists, we're in tune with a different frequency.
Because nothing's fixed. Nothing's fixed. You can, every other instrument's got a fixed position or somewhere, or certainly they're fretless instruments have the same thing, but so you really rely upon your ear. You got to hear the note and hit it.
Yeah.
You don't have time, they don't give you time to search.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure. If I could, let's step a little bit outside of music, not too far, a little bit, but last year, 2020, was obviously a very interesting year for us as African Americans. Every year is interesting for us, but 2020 was especially a tough year for us. You've seen a lot of things throughout your time. You've seen a lot of these shifts racially. You've seen how people have reacted to different events throughout history. What parallels do you see from earlier incidents of racial injustice and things like that to what we experienced last year in 2020?
Yeah. Well, it's I don't think I know anything like 2020 that I can really put my thing that affected me the way 2020. Maybe as I said early, I was naive when I went to Miami in 57. I know how I felt about cross burnings, but now to see it so blatant on a large scale, the police brutality and the things like that. Certainly, we had a big riot in Detroit, and then the year I came here in 1968, they had a riot here. So and those were triggered by same kind of injustice, the Rodney King situation and all, but that, but now it's to a point it's so blatant, and so wide until it's hard not to see it, because you see a certain element of people who can walk right by you and don't see you anymore. You become invisible. They don't want no eye contact. That's a weird feeling because we're friendly people, man. We really are the soul of the nation. We like to laugh. We don't laugh. We have laughed almost as much as we've talked today.
Right.
It's really wonderful. That's medicine. But these people are toxic. And man, they're greedy. They don't want to share. And what are they gonna do? I mean, when they, twice a week, what my wife and I do. I got a wonderful wife. We've been married, man, for 42 years.
Wow, that's beautiful.
And she come from a very musical background, not as a musician, but her uncle, Tony Poindexter, saxophone player.
Yeah.
And people like Billie Holiday used to come to their house because she grew up in Seattle, Washington. And, it was no place where they couldn't stay in the hotels. They had to find a family to live with. So that kind of background, Father Hines and all those guys knew her family. So when we got together, that kind of comfort, I wasn't foreign to her, and we raised a nice family of 7 children, and we've been thoroughly blessed to do what I love to do, really, all my life.
Yeah. Man. What a blessing. What a blessing. Wow, that's so interesting that like 2020, it's like things were supposed to get better, but it's like somehow it's gotten worse, and I just know if we don't nip this thing in the bud like right now, like even more, it was bad back then, but if we don't deal with it now, like we're all in trouble, not just black. Everybody is in trouble if we don't get it together.
We're very close to civil war.
Yeah.
Serious, and that's frightening because we're all mixed up. I'm in my neighborhood now. They're coming back in here like this candy store. So they're moving back into the area. It's close to downtown. It's close to Hollywood. I'm 10 minutes from the airport. Ideal. I've been in this house since '69.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? So, but now they're forced to see us. And else, I can't generalize. I don't want to.
Yeah.
But there is a very evil thing out there.
Yeah.
There's a disregard for humanity and Black people especially. And it's just not good because when we really look at ourselves in the whole picture, if it wasn't for what we participate, it would be terrible. I mean, it would be terrible. And but
and that's a civilization. If we did not civilize the world,
exactly.
Where would the world be? So and we're not asking for anything other than respect and acknowledgement of such. And I think there's a fear, an underlying fear of what if they do to us what we did to them. I think that is the biggest fear that drives this whole machine that they just don't want to give up.
Right. Yeah, it's true. I'm sure you're right. I feel that myself, and we often speak of the fact of, if we didn't participate, what would it be? It's unimaginable how sad it would be. But like I said, I come in a high school in the 50s. 1954 when I came out of high school, and I had all kinds of different races of people that went to school with me for 3 or 4 years, and we didn't even know what the racial thing was in our community, you know. And
Yeah.
so of course, our community was small. That's
Sure.
another thing we have to recognize. When I say that, I can't speak for Detroit. I can speak for my community,
Yeah.
where I
Yeah.
live, where I shopped, where we played as children. You know, it was mixed,
Yeah.
but we always knew. Don't be going out to Dearborn.
Mm.
You know, I don't
Mm-hmm.
understand why really, but
Right.
just don't go out.
Don't. Yeah.
And we didn't go out there, so we weren't directly affected by it. But even then, that heavy thing has remained a part of the United States. That's just who we are, and it's sad. It's,
Yeah.
it's sad. Like I said, there's a lot of. I've never. I hate to associate all of the parties like the Republican Democrats as being that far apart.
Mm-hmm.
But from this Trumpism that we have had to deal with the last 4 years has been so toxic, and it's been evil, it's mean,
Yeah.
it's hate. And but then you realize that half the nation feel that
Mm-hmm.
half of it. Really?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
It's scary, man.
Yes.
It's really scary.
Yes. Oh man, you just like you hit the chord because you think like 70 million. That's a lot of people.
A whole lot of
A
people.
lot of people. It's a lot of people.
My little 6 shooter ain't gonna hurt that
Yeah.
many people.
Right. Right.
Man,
Man, that's nuts.
they don't have a ghost of a chance that they look what they did to the Capitol building, man.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Yeah.
And
Yeah. The
so
fight, the fight is here, and the fight is here. And figuring out how to be here, because you can try and be the renegade, but once they take you out, then what next? So you got to figure out how to use this to get the masses. And anybody that does that, they seem to find a convenient way to take care of them throughout history. But that's still where we got to start, is right here. It's the ethos of the people has to be
absolutely,
united,
absolutely.
for sure.
And I'm encouraged by the younger people, like your group and younger,
Yeah.
who are determined to make some positive change.
Yeah.
They're not going to go for maybe what I would go for. You know what I'm saying? I realize that I'm happy that the movements, the Black Lives Matter, those movements, they are causing some change that, man, we try to get police reform, man, get out of here.
Yeah. 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 And
But,
some of these, I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, but when I look at all of the stuff that's happening and the stuff in Washington, D.C., can you imagine if that had been Black Lives Matter
Yeah.
breaching cabinet?
Mm, mm. And I think that's what made most of us upset. I wrote in my journal that day, like white people went crazy today, end of entry, and put it down, because as I watched all of that, that was my first thing. What if that had been us up there? We wouldn't even gotten that far. I promise you that.
We wouldn't have touched the grass,
Yeah. Yeah.
down like a
Yeah.
lawn board.
Yeah. We
You
wouldn't have
know?
got that far. Yeah.
So that's a reality we live with in this.
Yeah. Yeah. And I will say, doing photography, I've been out to several protests around New York, around in different areas, and I will absolutely commend the generation that is even underneath me. There are some fearless, absolutely fearless young Black people out there,
Yes.
and whether it be them seeing through social media, hey, there's more people like me, so I feel empowered to do this.
Mhm.
Like it's great to see, and I feel like we we'll be able to conquer this thing because we have people out there who are absolutely fearless in fighting for the cause. So I commend them for
I
that,
really
you
do.
know.
I
Yeah.
really do. I
Yeah.
really do. I have kids. I have children and grandchildren, and I
Mm-hmm.
know how. I know it's so much that they would not take. They just can't stand for it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've got kids who went to Marcus Garvey School as preschool. Marcus Garvey, learning I am somebody and
Mm-hmm.
learning who they are and learning
Yeah.
about the struggle of Black man in America. And then my son went off to Morehouse. He graduated, went in with a full scholarship at 16 years old, went to Morehouse.
Wow. Wow.
Uh, and now he and he's got his baby and mother, and them they live in Ghana. You know,
Oh, wow.
you
Wow.
know. But he's between Ghana and Atlanta. He's in
Hmm.
Atlanta more than he's in Ghana now because he's got a place there and he got a business going. So
Yeah.
they got it. They know it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
don't. They don't look. They don't listen to much news because they know
Right.
what it is.
Yeah.
We say don't watch that, or no, don't have to watch that. We understand that,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
they're fearless. They're not going.
Yeah.
They're going to enjoy the fruits of this
Mm.
era, and
Yeah.
they're doing great.
Yeah.
Doing
And
great.
yeah, and I think it's our responsibility to do that. There are people like yourself that have paved the way for somebody like me who has been just like you, the only African American person in many settings.
Oh,
And like many times. And I've looked around, I've kind of been like, okay, and all these little micro things that happen, I'm the person that's not quiet. I'm the person that's not going to let you say your little BS and be like, oh man, I'm going to talk to you right then and there.
good.
Like,
Yeah.
we're going to squash this right now so you can gain awareness and we can move on, you know?
Well, and I another thing, I started contracting. I mean, we probably gonna have to take a part.
It's gonna be part 8, the George Boy.
Yeah, this year's series.
Right. Hey, listen, man. I'm soaking this up, man, because like if I don't ever get this again, I want every bit of it. This is so important. So, man, I'm good.
I'm just so happy to meet you because what you're doing is so important. I mean, you are chronicling, certainly the black trombone player, but the musicians in general, man, they all go through it. They all go through all the black musicians. I know guys, man, practice consistently and were very proficient at their instruments, and they go and they have to play last chair because they got a little curly head boy playing lead. He
Mm-hmm.
play high E, but that's
Yeah,
it.
right,
You
right.
don't have no feeling. Yeah, no
Yep, yep.
got nothing on it.
Yeah, yeah, yep.
But I've been through a lot of that, but the wonderful thing is, I always, one thing I learned earlier when I found myself in those positions, when we take a break, I find out what are they talking about. I was nosy, man. I guess people, they huddling over there talking
Mm-hmm.
together. And most of the guys I noticed were talking about real estate. Real estate. Oh yeah, well I got these units, and they're really appreciating units. Appreciate. Nobody, I had no information like that growing up. We had a house, but so what? We didn't have that kind of situation. So that helped a lot with me because
Yeah.
I bought some units early. I bought
Yeah.
a couple of 4-unit buildings.
Yep.
And then I met cats like Ray Brown and people who we play golf with and all the cats, and then they really gave me an education.
Interesting.
Yeah. And
Interesting.
so that made my life a little simpler because I did have, I had a house as I've had for 50 years, which is wonderful because I couldn't afford it now.
Yeah, yeah.
It's in a good area.
Yeah.
And so I learned early you got to do something to make some money while you're sleeping. And real estate, people must have a place to live. If you can get in on some units or something, that it's going to, there are going to be some times when you want to try to give them away because people
Right.
know how to pay the rent right and all of
Yeah.
that. But in the long run, when I got ready to say, okay, we're going to get rid of these, and we're going to, and I did a whole nother thing. You know, I did 20 years at UCLA, right?
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know. No, I did not know that.
I got a little black Bruin up here on the cabinet.
Okay. Okay.
I taught 20 years at UCLA and I studied with Jimmy Burrell.
Okay.
You know, and I performance and also, I coach a combo. Just teach how to put a band together, how to play, how to pace, things like this. You know, but that's a whole nother chapter that we have to reach on the next one. But
yes.
but it's like I'm saying, it's so much has happened, and as we talk, it keeps bits of it come back that we didn't get it in any chronological order.
Sure.
But in the studios, once I got me a piece of property and that was happening, it means I didn't have to accept no $50 gigs because I got something working over here. I can spend more time working on my horn or whatever.
Yeah.
A little bit of options if you're able to do that any kind of way. Yeah. When you get ready to say, well, I'm retiring, well, I got a pension,
right?
I got Social Security, and then I sold some buildings for over almost $2 million that I paid $46,500 for.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you just one more question. I could literally sit here and talk to you the rest of the day, but
I'm going to say something for the book.
Yes, for sure. And that is coming. I actually really do want to do a book of these interviews and put it out in book form, similar to what you were talking about. So that will happen, that will definitely happen. If you could, like you've seen it from so many different angles, as you've explained here. What advice could you leave with people that, because I want to try and have something that everybody could benefit from, not just musicians. And we went from everything from financials to communications with people to, networking and all this. In this music scene now, and just where we are now, what is one piece of advice you could give to people that would help them build their legacy in a, not just a positive way, but something that they can leave for the next generation? Like,
that's a great question because I truly believe that all of the talent is still here, even that is being suppressed. All the talent is still here. So here we are. Look what we're doing. This is wonderful because there are people who can listen to what we've talked about today, and it might influence their lives in a very positive direction. So my thing is, if you're writing music, if you like to write music, you got some great stuff to write about now. People who are suffering from cabin fever, it's a wonderful time. This is a wonderful era to write about. You can write some good blues too, right on.
Yeah.
So it's a time to utilize what you have and not what you don't have. We have access through Zoom still to stay in contact with each other. And that's so important because when you get to yourself and your head starts spinning, and you say, man, what am I doing out there? I mean, no gig. Hey, talk to somebody over there and say, hey, man, I'm working on a project. I want you to do a solo on my, you got to utilize this tool here really well now because that's what's happening. Everybody, and I don't want to get into the COVID thing because that's really I don't want to get into it because I don't know enough. But I feel that in spite of what we're locked down with, it's a great opportunity to get together because we all are sitting still.
Yeah.
Normally we're all moving,
Yep.
but everybody's sitting still. So it's a great time. What you're doing, we should pull these off on at least a weekly basis with 50 people.
Yeah.
Getting input and letting them know we understand. Okay, well, why don't we do this together? It's a great time. You know, I've been working on a project for 20 years. Hey, I love it. And then it's surprising. Something very unique will come out of it. Something very, very, very important. You know, because you gotta use what you have, and then you gotta certainly go within a lot. Yeah. Be at peace with yourself. You got to realize you got to pray a lot and believe that you are doing what you are supposed to do. You're not just waiting for something to happen. You are happening. That's what about you. You happening. This is great. The trombone, it's happening. You know, and it can expand beyond the Trombone Chronicles. You know, that's the chop shop. Yeah, there's a whole lot of chops out here.
Yeah. Oh man, just like if you could see like how my heart is just flying out right now, because I mean you're just speaking to my soul, because this series, the Black Trombone Chronicles, is the most important project I've ever done. And I didn't know what it was going to be. I didn't know what was going to happen. I was just like, hey, this is an opportunity. Let's see what happens. And it's grown. And now I realize, you know, every time I have to do one of these interviews, I have to read about I have to learn history. I have to do all of these things. I wouldn't have done that before, you know, unless it, you know, so it exactly what you're saying, like, this time has forced us to dig a little bit deeper into ourselves that we can't do when we're in motion.
Exactly.
You know, you have to sit still for a second. Yeah. Yeah. George, man, this conversation has just been absolutely amazing. I can't thank you enough for doing that and for taking your time and sharing your knowledge with me and with the audience. I know they're going to benefit so much from it. So thank you so much. I really appreciate this.
Well, it's been a pleasure. And like I said, I'm happy to know you. And I'm going to tune in to check some of the chronicles on YouTube and all. You know, because it's some good brothers. Andre, I love him too. And I know you're done with one with him.
Yeah. There's some great stories on there from classical jazz where I'm overjoyed that I got to do it, and I got to share it with you. So
thank you. We'll stay in touch though, please. And if you need anything to know, whatever, don't hesitate to call. You have my number.
Absolutely. I appreciate you, George. And I want to thank everybody who has watched this episode of the Black Trombone Chronicles. Boy, if you feel anything like me, I know you're feeling a lot better right now. If you want to find out more information about George, I'll link some of that stuff in the description. And if you haven't done so, make sure you subscribe to the Chop Shop YouTube channel. As always, thank you for watching this episode, and I'll see you next time at the Chop Shop. Later.